Hey people, it's Nia Stokey. Now first off, I'd just like to give a shout out to Kevin Kelly. Go check out his page. Now, the person I want to thank is Professor Black Truth. Hearing his video on George Washington really inspired this video. Now I want to talk about one of the other founding fathers, one of the key ones, the guy who wrote the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. And we're going to talk about his relationship with slaveholding, literally. Now, according to Claude Anderson, the best known romance, like that is the wrong word to use for that. Like, how can you have a romance with someone you own and control? Anyway, between Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, one of his black slaves. The romance began when Jefferson was in his 40s and ended when he was nearly 64 years of age. It is thought that Hemings bore 5 slave children for the president and offered the Declaration of Independence. Ugh. Rumors of the affair did not go unnoticed by Jefferson's political enemies. His 1804 presidential campaign was bombarded with mudslinging gossip about his love life with various black mistresses and their mulatto offspring, his Congo harem, as one detractor put it. Jefferson's opponents focused on his affair with Hemings, whom he allegedly impregnated while serving as American envoy to Paris. At that time, the black slave was just 16, so according to many American states, this guy would be in jail. And in addition to the whispering campaigns about Jefferson and Hemings, one of the president's contemporaries put the tale of his love life to verse. Of all the damsels on the green, or mountains, or in valley, a lass so lush never was seen as Monticelli and Sally. Corey's Yankee Doodle, he's the noodle. What knife, what wife was so handy? Shall breed a flow of slaves for stock. A black arm was the dandy. When pressed by a load of state affairs, I seek to sport and dally. The sweetest solace of my cares is the lap of Sally. Neither the allegations or the verse stopped the immensely popular Jefferson from winning the election. Neither did they affect his behavior towards Hemings in particular and his slaves in general. Okay, let's just see forward. Okay, the mystery of Jefferson's moral nature, as well as his feelings towards Hemings and his mixed-race children, extended beyond his life. At his death in 1826, Hemings was 53. In his will, Jefferson freed everyone in the Hemings family, except the long-suffering Sally. She was willed, along with the rest of his slaves, to his white daughter, Martha. Some felt he kept Sally enslaved to protect her, to keep her out of the public eye after his death. Either way, Sally remained in bondage at the Jefferson estate at Monticello for several years, until Martha Jefferson quietly set her free. Sally then joined her family, which was living in a small house across the Potomac River from Washington, D.C. at the age of 62 in 1835, where she died in obscurity. Now, I want to say a couple more things. Now, there are even allegations that Sally Hemings was fathered by his father or one of his male relatives, and she could have been his half-sister, or at least related to him. Now, again, that's not confirmed because no one ever did a DNA test on her or came out and said it. But, these things are always possible. I mean, these slaves are inherited, so it's more than possible. So that just shows you just quite how sick and disgusting this relationship is. And I'm going to go and explain further on how they treated their slave mistresses. Well, Thomas Jefferson treated slave mistresses and the children he fathered. Now, this is another chapter, Thomas Jefferson, a hypocrite. Thomas Jefferson's harsh view of black Americans, whom he considered inherently inferior to whites, did not extend to American Indians. Jefferson was willing to contemplate white-Indian amalgamation. What does that mean? Basically mixing and becoming one nation. In speaking of the Indians, he said in 1803, "We shall probably find that they are formed in mind as well as in the body on the same model with the Homo sapien European. In truth, the ultimate point of rest and happiness for them is to let our settlements and theirs meet and blend together, to intermix and become one people." At the same time, he left his own children die as slaves. Now, the following advertisement was run in a Richmond newspaper. 32 Negroes will be offered for sale on Monday, November 10th at 12 o'clock, being the entire stock of the late John Graves, Esquire. The Negroes are in good condition, some of them very prime. Among them are several mechanics, able-bodied field hands, plowboys, and women with children at the breast, and some of them very prolific in their generating qualities, affording a rare opportunity to anyone who wishes to raise a strong, healthy lot of servants for their own use. Also, several mulatto girls of rare personal qualities. 2 of them are superior. Any gentleman or lady wishing to purchase can take any of the above slaves on trial for a week, for which no charge will be made. Amongst the slaves being sold above, 2 were President Thomas Jefferson's mulatto daughters, Clotel and Alphesa. He approved the 2 girls being advertised as very superior for reading. Well, still, Jefferson allowed them to be sold into prostitution of his mistresses or breeding slaves. Now, this just shows you how sick and depraved he was when it came to them. Now, he was more than happy to have a relationship with his slave mistress, but he didn't even view these children quite as his. He viewed them as sort of like objects which could be sold off. And for those of the people say, well, how do we know it was his? Those children were his. Well, look, he runs the slave plantation. Obviously, he gets the pick of all the women, the female women. And I'm sure he can tell very closely who the lineage is. And I'm sure no one gets access to the slaves unless he chooses to, which I can't imagine him letting anyone do that. Anyway, I wanted to do this piece to shed more light on his relationship with the Sally Hemings and how he considered his mixed-race children, and because no one really talks about it, it's just one of those things that are acknowledged and then just like, oh, well, it happened. Anyway, if you like this and find it interesting, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace, family.